Hey there and welcome to SI Now. It's Thursday, February 2nd, and I'm Ryan Aselta. Coming up on today's show, Maggie Gray will join us from Houston with former wide receiver Chad Johnson. Plus, we'll have our SI Now exclusive Super Bowl III through the Sports Illustrated lens. But we kick things off in college football today. Our first guest was the Big Ten Coach of the Year back in 2014 at Minnesota, and now finds himself back in the Big Ten at Rutgers. Coach Jerry Kill joins us now. And Coach, good to see you. You're here in New Jersey now, named the offensive coordinator at Rutgers last month after spending a few months at Kansas State as an associate athletic director. Talk about this opportunity that you have here, coming to the East Coast, a Midwest guy. How excited are you to get back on the football sidelines?
Well, it's a great opportunity, and I didn't know if I'd get that opportunity again and be healthy enough to do it through battling epilepsy. But I've had a great year. I've had no seizures, and so for Chris to give me the opportunity, and I think he gave it to me for two reasons. One, certainly to help out the offense, but the other part of it is I've been a part of turnaround programs my whole life. So, I think we make a good team and feed off each other, and it's been good. I've really enjoyed the coaching staff and the people, and New Jersey's a great place. I mean, I've had a great time. The image in the Midwest was different than the image that I'm living, and I've enjoyed the people, and it's been fun.
Let's talk about your health. You stepped away from Minnesota in 2015 because of health concerns from epilepsy. You come back onto the sidelines in an assistant head coach position here. Why is now the right time for you, health-wise, to get back on the football field?
Well, I think it's one of those things where I took enough time to, what brought my seizures on was a lack of sleep, not eating right, not exercise, and all the things you're not supposed to do. And I would tell everybody that's listening, you need to do them. And that brought on the seizures. So I've had to change my diet. I'm on a special epilepsy diet, sleep patterns, except for during recruiting, and then eating right. And so it's been, I've taken better care of myself. I took time off to get things fixed, change medications, etc. And it's been good. And I just felt like, my wife, my kids, they all love college football, and they knew I was hurting not being a part of it. And being an administrator and helping out at K-State was fun, but that didn't coach and ball. And so I'm glad to be back on the sidelines and contributing to, I think, which is going to be a great turnaround at Rutgers.
You mentioned the turnaround, 2-10 last year. Rutgers has had a tough time getting into this Big Ten, getting competitive in one of the best conferences in the country. What's the key to turning around the Rutgers program that has traditionally struggled on the football field?
Well, I think it's like anything, is that you got to lay a foundation and a base, and Chris has done a great job of doing that. When I was in Minnesota, I think we won 3 games the first year, but you got to lay the foundation, and you got to change the culture. And he's done all those things. He may be a little farther ahead than we were even at Minnesota, and then recruiting's a lifeline, and you got to get better players. And we were able to get a lot of players out of Jersey this year, and we got to continue to do that in New York and Philadelphia and attack that area because there's more players around this area than there's maybe 6 in Minnesota, and but we have a ton of talent. We just need to keep it here in the state, and I think we had 17 or 18 out of our signing class, so we're doing a better job of that, and then we got to develop players.
Right.
But our kids work hard, I will tell you that, and I see good things ahead.
How do you as a coach balance this? You mentioned recruiting and you used the word attack there, yet you have to watch it because of your health. You mentioned having to get enough sleep. Is that a tough balancing act right now, Coach?
It is. It is. I was in a pretty good routine before I got back in the recruiting part of it. But I've been careful up to the last 3-4 days. You got to get it done. But it is a tough balancing part. But it's a tough balancing part even for your job. We all work hard. We all want to do the best. But the one thing we got to do is you only have one body, and you got to take care of it, or you don't perform as well. So I learned the hard way. And I can give good lessons, not how to do things. But coaching is different now. It's hard to do that and be an epileptic. It's not easy.
You're part of the Tackle Epilepsy program. How can people get involved with this?
Well, it's a great program, you know, with partnering up with UCB and Epilepsy Advocate. They've done a great job of putting together with the Super Bowl an awareness and also raise money for the Epilepsy Foundation. And, you know, people don't realize there's 1 out of 26 people that have this, and you know, and don't understand there's people that die from it. So what we're doing, which is a little bit unique, is that we want everybody to get their cameras out, take a picture of themselves, and put their game face on, and we want to see all kinds of different game faces. That's for sure. And then we want to, you know, they can go on hashtag Tackle Epilepsy and get that on social media, and you know, really help us. And they can also follow my Twitter, that's unusual for me to say Twitter, but at Jerry Kill Coach. So it's something that you know, it's great that we're partnering up and being a part of the Super Bowl, and you know, it'd be amazing how many people you don't know that have epilepsy because they're scared to come out and say it because they think it might cost them a job.
Right. All right. Well, Coach, we wish you good luck at Rutgers and the best of health along the way as well. Coach Jerry Kill, thanks for being with us today.
It's been a privilege.
All right. Now to Super Bowl 51, where we're just over 3 days away from the big game now. Our own Maggie Gray is in Houston and has been catching up with loads of NFL players, including former wide receiver Chad Johnson.
Chad, let's talk about one of your good friends. He has a chance to be a member of the Pro Football Hall of Fame in just a few days' time. What would be your reaction if Terrell Owens does not get in for the second year?
I mean, for me, in understanding the politics that goes along with getting into the Hall of Fame, it wouldn't be a shock. The fact that he wasn't the first, that he didn't go in right away based on the stats, you know, because he is proven. The fact that other things are factored into whether you're allowed in right away is another thing.
If you were put in a room with those Hall of Fame voters, what would you want to tell them about T.O.?
Well, there's really not much I can say. There's not much I can say that would persuade them to change their minds based on what's been put out over the years. You know, that's something that T's had control over, and you know, he has to deliver those decisions. But to me, he was honest, he was upfront. It was about one thing: winning games, going out there and playing his heart out week in and week out.
People call wide receivers divas. Do you take that as a slight, or do you wear that as a badge of honor?
I don't really pay it any mind. I don't pay it any mind, but to be good at what you do, to be out there in that island alone, you have to somewhat be just that. I don't think diva would be the right term, you know, but it's one that's described for many of us receivers.
Warrior.
I don't know. That's a good one. I'm not sure what you would call it, but I don't know who came up with the terminology, but you know, it's weird. Anytime you have personality, a little flash, a little flair to yourself, then the whole diva thing comes about.
Saying you had a little personality and a little flash would be the understatement of the century.
I had fun.
You had a lot of fun.
Like,
you also fined almost $100,000 through your career for end zone celebrations. I mean, did you see?
Way more than that.
Way more than that.
$100,000 in a year.
I'm sorry that I shortchanged you. Could you see it coming where now there are no end zone celebrations and guys are fined even more heavily?
Yeah, I mean, the NFL is about control. I understood that back then. I'm sure they understand that now. I didn't really care. For one, I didn't even play for the money, unfortunately. You know, it was great to be doing something that I love and being paid greatly for, but that's not the sole reason why I was there, which is why I really never stopped. And the way I was taught and watched football growing up, this is the way it's supposed to be played. That's why I continue to.
Is it hurting the product, though, to not let guys express themselves in that way?
They know that. I think the NFL knows that. You wonder why ratings are down. It has nothing to do with the product on the field, but just the viewing pleasure and being able to watch. That's why basketball is so welcome globally, you know? It's just weird.
Do you feel like the NFL is missing an opportunity? Are they too focused on the control?
You know what? Not really, because they want to control the revenue and who's marketing and being able to benefit off every aspect, every little inch of it.
You know, you were great at branding yourself, though, and I think you were almost on the forefront of guys sort of seeing themselves in their individual earning power. So with that in mind, Be honest. If the technology had existed, would we have seen Chad Johnson live from the locker room like Antonio Brown?
Yeah, probably. Yeah. Actually, I would have went steps further in doing something on the field, in the field of play, or maybe after a touchdown, or having the phone under the goalpost and Facebooking like literally. I mean, the ideas, you know, I'm extremely original when it comes to creativity. So, and who knows? I'm glad I didn't play in this era. They'd probably kick me out the league. Like, seriously, honestly.
I don't know about that, but guys do get criticized quite a bit, especially Odell Beckham Jr. this year. Took it from a lot of different angles, from the kicking net to on-the-field stuff to the trip to Miami. Did he deserve all that criticism?
He knows. He brings it on himself, but then he backs it up on the field. You know, unfortunately, regardless of what you say, he will grow, he will mature, and he will get better as a receiver and a player.
People don't know this about you, or maybe they do if they follow all your social media channels. You are one heck of a video game player. You're going to be taking part with the EA
Sports Bowl.
It's going to be going on February 2nd. Snoop Dogg's going to be there, lots of other celebrities. Are you going to win this thing?
Easily.
Really? Easily.
I'm playing 2 Chainz tomorrow, who is a good friend of mine. So
Atlanta rapper?
Yeah, I'm looking to annihilate not just a competition that showed up tomorrow, but everyone in Houston throughout the week.
Wow, that's
the entire.
You're taking this really seriously.
Very seriously.
What's your best Snoop Dogg story of all time?
You know what, my best Snoop Dogg story of all time, I really can't share. So I would hate.
How about a little bit?
I can't, unfortunately. I'm just being honest.
It was that much.
Yes.
Okay, well, tell people where they can find you when you're competing with this EA Bowl.
All you have to do is follow me on Twitter. For those who don't, what camera are we in? Where
That's you.
Hey,
with the red light.
If you need me, just follow Ocho Cinco. Throughout the week, I will be here annihilating everybody. If you can beat me, I'll be paying you $1,000 throughout the week, okay? I love you.
Did you hear that? A money-making proposition. Chad Ocho Cinco, thanks a lot.
It's a
Appreciate
pleasure.
it. Thank you.
All right, now to a sport that Chad Johnson actually thought he could play professionally after football, and that's soccer. Let's welcome in SI senior writer Grant Wahl. And Grant, a couple interesting headlines this week in the soccer world. The U.S. has not officially made a bid for the 2026 World Cup. Soccer president Sunil Gulati says he wants to see how President Trump's executive order on an immigration ban is going to affect players around the world. How do you expect this to play out? Is the U.S. going to make a bid for the World Cup?
I still expect the U.S. will bid for World Cup 2026. That vote doesn't take place until 2020, so a lot could happen between now and then. Though I have to say, I mean, like over the last year, we basically decided that the U.S. is the favorite to host or co-host World Cup 26 with Canada and or Mexico. I think co-hosting might be a little more difficult now with Mexico, given some of the things that are happening, and we'll just have to wait and see what kind of rules are in place for people to be welcomed into the United States or not welcomed into the United States down the road here. But you know, there's a lot of things that remain to be decided, so it's really hard to know too much as of yet.
And just to clarify, timing, 2020 is when they officially would have to submit the bid for the 2026 World Cup.
They would submit the bid this year. They would come out and say, they would announce, we are going to bid. The actual vote for the host of that World Cup is in 2020.
Okay, so still a lot in play, a very fluid situation. All right, let's talk about the English Premier League, where the champs are having a tough season. Leicester City close to being relegated at this point. How close are they to being bumped out of the EPL?
They're only 2 points out of the relegation zone at this point in the Premier League, with less than half the season left to play. And yeah, everyone thought Leicester would come back to earth, but nobody thought they would be in a relegation battle. And so here they are, and they've had a really rough stretch of late, not defending well, conceding a lot of goals, not playing well at home all the time. The crazy thing is they're actually doing well in Champions League. They've advanced to the round of 16 there, so they could still make a Cinderella run this season. But that would be crazy if the Premier League champion were relegated to the second tier in English soccer the year after they won the title.
Yeah, we've heard of worst to first. We don't see first to worst very often. Could be in the future for Leicester City. How about Chelsea? No danger of relegation for them. They have a 9-point lead right now atop the Premier League. Is the talent gap between the Blues and everyone else as big as this point lead that they have?
I don't think it is. Obviously, they have a lot of talent. They won the Premier League 2 seasons ago under Jose Mourinho before last year's horrible season where they didn't even qualify for Champions League. But you look at what Antonio Conte, the new manager, has been able to do, and it's been amazing in his first season to get so much out of this Chelsea team across the board. They're a really hard team to play against. They keep things tight in defense, and they have a guy in Diego Costa who can always get you, it seems like, the goal that they need. Big game coming up this Saturday against Arsenal. If Chelsea goes ahead and wins this game, they're going to be up by 12 points over Arsenal in the league.
Tough to blow a 12-point lead, I would think, at this point in the season. Now, speaking of Chelsea, Frank Lampard announced his retirement today. 21 years in professional soccer. Most recently, had played with NYC FC. Going to look for his coaching qualifications and study for that now. What type of coach do you think Frank Lampard would make?
Well, I think he could be a very, very good coach. He's always been a very smart player, very analytical in how he approached the game. You never know for sure. And just having the playing credentials isn't going to be enough. But what I would like to see him do is a little bit like what Steven Gerrard is doing at Liverpool, kind of working out of the spotlight as a coach for a couple years with some of the younger players. I think that's the best way to kind of get your priorities in order, become a coach, and show that you're not just doing this for the spotlight. The
respect factor already there, I guess, credibility-wise, over 300 goals. He's 38 years old. Kind of that seems like the next generation of young coach starts right at that point, right?
Yeah, just a tremendous playing career. He is a guy, Lampard, who can walk into any locker room in the world and have instant respect.
All right, Grant Wahl, thanks for being with us, man.
Pleasure.
Well, one professional athlete who certainly would have made a great coach was former New York Jets quarterback Joe Namath. Broadway Joe will forever be remembered for guaranteeing a victory before Super Bowl III. But one image of Namath will live in Super Bowl lore. The Sports Illustrated photo of Joe Willie poolside in his swim trunks holding court just days before that game. SI photographers Walter Yost and Neil Leifer were there, along with legendary sportscaster Brent Musburger. As we prepare for Super Bowl Sunday, they all take a look back, along with the Hall of Fame QB himself, at Super Bowl III through the SI lens.
This is a great shot, of course. It helps me remember this day. I can feel it when I see this. You see that flag up there blowing that way? You know, the kickers had a tough time somewhat there. There was some wind, yeah. But just seeing this gives me a feel for that day.
I think one big sidelight has been Joe Namath. Joe Namath, of course, is the man that the Colts have to stop.
I don't see any blue jerseys around old Joe.
George Sauer, the split end, running a quick little slant in, and he's hit there by Lenny Lyles, who followed him over.
George, yeah, man. You know what? First of all, getting open is a real feat against Lenny Lyles, who's mostly Lenny on George. I don't remember him dropping passes in games. He had sure hands. He was disciplined, and I miss him. I miss him.
Now, let me tell you a story. It was a day at the Super Bowl that you'll never believe.
The AFL versus, the greatest sports in God's history, the NFL.
It made the Orange Bowl a citadel. After that, there were so many great events that unfolded in that particular arena.
It had the open end with the palm trees and the clouds all the time, and starting the day and ended at twilight. Picture-wise, it couldn't have been better.
I chose the Colts. It was an easy decision. Who'd care about pictures after the game of the New York Jets who'd gotten their butts kicked?
The great drama that this game unfolded with was, it was special.
8 seconds to go. Watch this Jet team when this one's over.
This is on the sideline, and that clock is winding down, man. Yes, I think by that time we figure we're going to win.
In the heart of Miami's Little Havana, they emerge from the sidewalk like creamsicle-colored tombstones. These letters, these pieces of the alphabet, reveal hidden messages as they sink into the concrete, a lasting memorial to what this place used to be. The Miami Orange Bowl, a venue now lost to time, whose greatest day, a warm January Sunday in 1969, is forever captured in the photographs snapped by award-winning SI photographers Walter Yost and Neil Leifer.
When the picture editor came to me and said, okay, you and Walter Yost, my peer and friend and a great photographer, would be spending a week, the week prior to the game, with one of the teams. And just luck would have it, I was given first choice, and I chose to spend the week prior to the game with the Baltimore Colts.
The Colts were my team. I love Johnny Unitas. I didn't grow up in Baltimore, but I fell in love with the Colts after they won in the famous sudden death game in '58. Johnny, Raymond Berry, Lenny Moore, I worship these guys. And that's what was upsetting to me, that no, I couldn't even just be hanging with them.
The New York Jets were surely going to lose the game. Everyone knew that. So I chose the Colts, and Walter Yost ended up spending a week with the New York Jets and got one of the great Super Bowl pictures of all time.
Well, I was assigned earlier in the week to go to the New York Jets Motel, which was in Fort Lauderdale at the time. I guess it was always safer to keep the players out of Miami Beach, which still works today.
These lovely homes are found in Fort Lauderdale, another fast-growing resort town, which is just as popular as a place to live year-round.
The weather was great. It was hot. So many of the players were just in a swimsuit with no shirt on. It was not unusual for a photographer and a writer to show up at the hotel the team was staying in.
Writers weren't the only ones attracted to the era's gods of the Midway. A young sportscaster from Chicago was also on hand, looking for an angle.
Roger Staubach was forced out. He had the wind knocked out of him, so Craig Morton came in. He threw for the Cowboys' only touchdown in that game.
Today, you couldn't even get inside the hotel with it, you know. Try to get close to these quarterbacks.
We were enjoying the sun. Coach Eubank let us get out there in the middle of the day for a change.
He came up and sat around the pool on the beach chairs with part of the media and fans and the two friends he had, the two lady friends from Alabama.
The three ladies standing beside me, you only see two of them. They had driven from Tuscaloosa, Alabama down there. But when I see that picture, I see Brett Musburger.
I had not been around Joe until that week. And somebody who worked for the hotel said, well, you know, Mr. Namath, I remember he called him Mr. Namath, is out back. So we thought he was just probably sitting in a chair at a table when we go out. No, here he is in the lounge, stretched out. And it was mesmerizing when you saw him there.
You know, if you set this up, if a stylist came in, or prop stylist, you couldn't have set this up better. And all laid out perfectly by accident. You have the Miami Herald sitting here. You have New York's picture newspaper, the Daily News, on this guy's head, with Joe Namath's picture and Coach Weeb Eubank.
Cy Burek has the newspaper over his head. He was a sports editor from Dayton, Ohio. And seated right next to him, as you look at it on the right, that's Chuck Heaton. He covered the Browns.
You know, he's got the tape finger. He's got a letter someone gave him, a brown envelope.
Right next to me is Ray Sons, who I traveled with. Ray worked for the Chicago Sun-Times. Jerry Green's behind us. He's from Detroit. And then standing up in the blue golf shirt, one hand on his hip, and then his right hand, if you look at that, that's a tape recorder. And you don't see his face, but that is a New York legend. That is Ed Ingles. Whenever SI puts out some kind of a coffee table book on the Super Bowl, they go back and they look at great pictures. That one's always in there. What am I asked the most about? Not Joe Willie Namath in a swimsuit, not Bain accent. Were you really wearing those Converse?
Today, the hotel where the team is staying is off limits, and it's off limits with security to make sure it stays off limits. You simply don't get to see anything like this. He would not be sitting out there holding a mini press conference.
Who could do that today? Who could sit there and handle that scene? Because he was such a charming guy, Joe. But you think Tom Brady doing that? I don't think so. Aaron Rodgers? No. Joe was Joe.
Namath has not been bashful this week. He's come down here to Miami, and he has said that the Jets are going to win. He doesn't even predict it. He said, I guarantee a Jet victory.
My wife and I were at the country club that night when Joe made the guarantee. I wasn't making a lot of money at the time, and so if anybody offered me a nice evening meal and a chance to hear Joe, you know, I went.
When I said we're going to win the game, I guarantee you, this was after 10 days, 11 days of being told somebody was going to kick our butts. Excuse me? Now, how would you feel about somebody over 10 days, everybody saying, you're going to lose. All these guys, they're going to kill you. When I said we're going to win the game, I guarantee you, I meant every bit of that, man. I knew we were going to win. That's how I felt going into it.
He can say whatever he like. There's no way they're going to beat the Colts.
He was the villain, man, okay. Joe had become, with one word, the villain of the piece, which is great when you're building up a sports drama.
Journalists need stories. Other than that word, who'd care? But what a great word, what a great headline.
The written word is all powerful, and the headlines meant a lot more, how you can characterize certain people.
We knew what we were playing for. We knew. And we were representing the AFL, man, and we lost the first two.
It's one thing to capture athletes sunbathing, but snapping the right shot at just the right moment on football's biggest day, that's something else entirely. Something that can cement the legacy of both the players and the photographers.
From the Orange Bowl in Miami, Florida, the American Football League champions, the New York Jets, versus the National Football League champions, the Baltimore Colts.
The crowd was vast because it was sold out. And Super Bowl I was not sold out. I mean, that's one thing I do remember, all the empty seats in the Coliseum. That was not happening here in Miami.
I was on one sideline. Walter Yost had been on the other sidelines, and basically you just try to roam the sideline and be in the position you think is the best place to be, depending on where the ball is on the field.
My viewpoint of the game is edited down to a 400-millimeter lens or a 600 or a 300. So I'm looking through a telescope, you know. The play takes place, you follow the quarterback, he either hands off or he throws a pass, and you try to find the receiver. And you get caught up in just trying to follow things and making sure you're getting the right photographs of potential stars of the game.
By the time they kicked it off, you were really looking forward to the football game. I mean, I was involved in the game because I was convinced the Colts were going to kick their ass. Joe obviously was seeing it up close. They couldn't stop him, so they just kept pounding away, and it was game, set, and match.
Photographing the end of the game is something that's on the photographer's mind the whole day, because you go to any game, whether it's the end of the World Series, the end of an NBA basketball game, you're always thinking, what are you going to do at the last play of the game?
The light changing as we got into the early evening made it, to me, very dramatic. It was fascinating to watch the Jets kind of float off and the Colts, head down, just left the field in disbelief.
There is no photography in which luck plays a bigger factor than sports photography. You've got to be in the right spot at the right time, and what separates the really good sports photographers from the ordinary ones, when you're in the right spot, you shouldn't miss.
Oh, man, this is great. You know, I don't even remember if if I remember this kid. I hope I said hello to him. But this is joyful. I promise you. We're just trying to get out of there right now, man. I may be, I don't know, I'm just trying to get off the field right now.
I see Joe expressionless, almost like he's fearing getting off the field. Everyone knows what's happened here, versus the picture just before. Put them together. Look at this. Look at the difference. This is within, what, 2 seconds?
You could see the fans getting down on the field. We did not have a lot of security.
I was nudged when I took the picture. I don't know if there's a picture before or after it.
There's a picture with movement in it. Even Walter will tell you it certainly isn't what he would have liked to have, but it's become a classic of that moment.
It's such a summation of everything that took place that day. So simple, you know, and you never think this when you shoot it. It's just time.
Oh boy, oh boy, oh boy, yeah. You know, when I look at this picture too, I not only remember and know that this was the only time I ever did that too, but I look at the body language. I'm not looking up there, we did it, we did it. I didn't feel that. This is respectful. The AFL, this is with respect I did that. We are finally number one. I'm glad he caught that.
Wow, what a fantastic look back at history. All things considered, really one of the greatest Super Bowls of all time. Tremendous piece of work right there. Great job by our SI Now crew on that. And that's going to do it for this Thursday edition of SI Now. We'll be back with you tomorrow, 1 p.m. Eastern, as we continue our countdown to Super Bowl 51. Maggie will have interviews with Le'Veon Bell, Tim Tebow, and Von Miller from Houston, and I'll be joined by Hall of Famer Warren Moon. Until then, stick with SI.com for all the latest, and don't forget to follow us on Twitter at SI Now Live. Have a great afternoon.